Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name is Luke, and I am pleased to welcome back to the show a friend of mine and a friend of the show, Justin, the General Patton. Justin, welcome back.
What's up, dude? How you doing?
I'm thrilled to have had you on the show as many times as we had, all the way back to when you were an amateur. Now you're a pro. You're headed into your fifth pro fight, and it's going to be a co-main event for Brawl in the Berg 13 at Morobo Convention Center, October 1st for 247 Fighting Championships. It's just a thrill to have you on the show. What does it feel like, comfortability-wise, headed into your fifth pro fight as opposed to, let's say, the first three?
I kind of know what I want to do a little bit more this time. Before I was kind of playing it by ear, but I kind of have more of a game plan for my style and imposing my will rather than like seeing where the fight goes, and playing it by whatever happens. Just the overall comfortable. It's weird. I realized the other day, I was like thinking like, dang, I got 4 pro fights already. It's kind of like it happened real fast, kind of.
It did. And you had 6 or 7 amateur fights. So as far as your fighting, I mean, you're developing your technique and your style, like you said. That almost kind of follows the idea of BJJ belts, how there comes a point at brown belt where all the skills are pretty much already had. At least this is what black belts tell me. And then the difference between a brown belt and a black belt is sort of developing your own style, maturing your own skill set. You really did put on, I was going to say a vintage general performance, but probably a futuristic in the sense that you're building to the future. You're adding on your skill sets. You had a second round stoppage against Nayez Ahmed last fight out. Let's talk just a little bit about that before we look at the October 1st fight. Crazy venue because it was the first time 247 was at the Meadows Casino. Your opponent wanted to sort of mix it up, and you finished it. You put on an absolute clinic. What did it feel like in there as far as flow state goes, as far as finding out what makes you as a fighter?
Well, that wasn't the game plan at all. I told you this after the fight. The game plan was to jab and stay long, and I did what I do. It's just, I guess it's just to slow the fight down, because that first like minute and a half, it's like you're kind of seeing what he wants to do, what you want to do. So I'll like, if I get him up against the cage, I'm trying to like either tee off or shoot, just kind of slow everything down, because he's still fast, he's not really tired, I'm not really tired. So you have like that like variables, you know what I mean? And you try to eliminate them by getting him to the ground. He can't do much now, you know what I mean? So that's kind of what I went for, I guess, my last fight. But the game plan was to stay long, jab, kick him up and punch him and stuff. But it paid off pretty well the way I did it.
It did. And that's the advantage of being skilled everywhere, even when you have a game plan to make it grappling, to take away his skills on the feet, you end up doing what worked in that fight. Looking ahead now, you're at the co-main event. You've kind of been a big deal for 247. You've had all your pro fights for them. I know they love that. They're excited to have you as a big part. You represent the Mat Factory and always have such a big support and big fan. Your shirts are fantastic with the skull wearing the general helmet, or two style helmet in honor of General Patton, which is your fight nickname. It was just really the environment was super cool. You are kind of settling into that role as being really top billing, in this case, co-main event, behind a Pittsburgh legend and a Pennsylvania MMA legend in Ethan Goss. I just had him on the show, the Wolverine, doing his defense, and everybody's going to be there to watch you. Everybody's going to be there to watch the main event, which is a title fight. But you have an opponent, Rico Talley, who's 3-0. You're coming off a win. He lost his debut fight. He has 3 fights, wins, and actually just checked on Tapology. He has a fight between now, I think today or tomorrow, and your fight. So clearly he's developing momentum. What is your What is your, and I could be wrong about that. Tapology is known to be wrong. So,
Yeah,
so
I think they he canceled the bout or something, I was told. Because I wasn't gonna take the because the variable, you know what I mean? Like
right,
I didn't want
right.
any hiccups in the plan.
And I don't, I was just watching the Jim Mooney show on Combat, on Pittsburgh Combat MMA podcast with Hunter, who's the GM. And it dawned on me because on that interview I was listening to, because I love Jim Mooney, he's a great matchmaker, really behind the scenes wizard in 247. And he was saying that the contracts have a 45-day before the fight, no fight clause because of the exact variables that can happen. So that makes sense
Yeah.
that fight is not actual, but nonetheless, Rico Talley comes in on a 3-fight win streak after dropping his debut fight. How much are you thinking about him? What game planning? And of course, don't tell me specifics, but what do you think about a guy coming on a 3-fight win streak, or is this more about you? And let's talk about Rico Talley.
I mean, he's no slouch by any means. Like, I'm not looking past him by any means. He's a tough kid, tough fighter, good grappler from what I've seen. But I'm gonna go in there and impose my will. You know, that's kind of the game plan nowadays. I'm not he's in there with me, you know what I mean? Like I'm not in there with I can do what I want to do. And then if he stops it, we'll go from there, you know? Like I'm gonna go in there and impose my will.
I think a healthy thought with that imposing your will is the idea of, in a fight, two fighters are trying to make their opponent fight the fight they want to fight, no matter what that fight happens to be. And I think that's exactly right. The mindset is where you are now in your pro career. This is the opportunity to build a run, to go on and build your skills and put together a streak that'll be impressive. Because I really think you and others at the Mad Factory do it right. You develop your skills, you develop your talents. You obviously are incredibly well coached and trained. And then it's a matter of getting that rolling, like you said, of recognizing that you're not in there with him, he's in there with you. And it's really about imposing your will and seeing where the fight goes. In your wildest dreams, so this is not game plan, this is in your wildest dreams, what would be the most spectacular way you'd like to finish? I'm thinking like a banana split, a twister, or the flying knee, the jumping knee that MVP cracked the skull of Cyborg. Like in a bizarre, please don't give techniques away as far as, but in a wild, crazy fight, what would you love to finish it as?
Like the teeth that Chandler hit Ferguson with. That'd
I
be
hate
pretty cool.
that. I know. I just hate that meme with Ferguson's
Oh yeah, or
face,
Frankie
like
Edgar,
all
and
squished.
Vera. You know what I mean? Like that type of teeth where their jaws snapping up, and if someone got a picture
Oh
of that, that'd be
yeah.
pretty good.
And
I think
you
that'd
got to
be.
go back. You probably have to go back at least 10 years, but Randy Couture's career in MMA ended. Don't know exactly why he was matched up with Lyoto Machida anyhow, because it seems like a rough thing for like a 47-year-old, 48-year-old.
Right.
But he got teeped in the face, and that ended his career. Yeah, I think I've got the fighters correctly. And then Anderson Silva did it to somebody.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was. Yeah, no, I remember that picture too. Yeah.
So yeah, Anderson Silva did it to somebody impressively in a title fight, which this is embarrassing. I can't remember it. And then Lyoto Machida did it to Randy Couture to end his career with I believe that was the two fighters, Randy Couture with the face kick. So yeah, those teeps, those are impressive. And so that would obviously, if it works, you've predicted it here, and I will make sure we cut that little clip out and make it look like you can predict the future like Mystic Mac. So that'll be fantastic. But obviously that's what, and I have to tell people, that's what makes MMA so exciting. I understand boxing's exciting. I've enjoyed watching boxing exciting, but a fight is either going to end from a right or a left. I mean, that's your options. Obviously, there's a lot of finesse, there's a lot of skill. We've seen Tyson Fury and kind of how beautiful the sport can be, all the way back to Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier. I mean, it's incredible what the sport boxing be, but MMA, on the feet has the 8 limbs of Muay Thai, in the fact of elbows, knees, feet. So the 8 limbs instead of 2, but then also on the ground, it's like a limitless options as far as things go. I'll tell you one that's really exciting, and I'm going to call him the Travis Brown elbows, but I think he was the first to use them. But when he got taken up against the cage, and the guy put his head right on his hip, and he
Oh
elbowed him
yeah,
like these elbows, and I've actually
yeah,
seen it. I've seen it actually work a few other times. I give Travis Brown credit because at the UFC level, he was the first one to do it. But just a heads up to wrestlers to understand that where you put your head matters, because obviously right on the hip bone is solid, and the elbow and the hip bone, it's a really bad place for a knockout. I actually saw Zach.
yeah. That's how Devontae Smith got into the UFC.
Yep,
He
yep.
elbowed that dude and he dropped him. Yeah, I remember
Well,
that fight.
Devontae Smith, we'll call it Devontae Smith elbows. I don't need to be giving Travis Brown any credit, but obviously Devontae Smith, we're big fans of him. He's
Yeah,
local, went up to UFC, was looking incredible, and then on like a 6-day notice fought Kama, the Death Star worthy, and Kama had the upset of the year and $50,000 knockout bonus. Just some incredible things. We'll call it the Devontae Smith elbows. Those are really cool. If
yeah.
I'm calling a fight and that happens and you do it, I'm going to call them. That's going to be the general. That's going to be
There we
the
go.
general. So
There
there
we
we
go.
go. So for you, you're happy, you're smiling. We talked last time at the Meadows. We talked about sort of you finding a weight that works for you. What are your thoughts coming into this fight as far as your weight, as far as managing your recovery? Because last fight against Ahmed, you were on point, and a lot of that's the way you've recovered and the way you were able to kind of be at your peak performance.
Yeah, 140, 145 is the move. I feel so much better. I feel so much stronger throughout camp. I'm not worried about my weight. I'm not dying during workouts. Like when I was making 135, I would get in the
Yeah.
middle of a workout and feel lightheaded, feel tired. I don't feel like that anymore. I feel energized, ready to go. If you ask anyone that's seen me the week before, 2 weeks before even, 2 fights ago, I was dead. Like I was miserable. I was not loving life. And now I find joy in training and I'm having fun doing it, you know?
Well, it's incredible to have you on the show with You're Having Fun. So, to quote Tapology again, Tapology has it listed as a 135. To your understanding, you're the guy that signed a contract. What is that weight for the co-main event?
Catch weight 140.
140. Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
it's a catch
And
weight
that's
140.
incredible. I know your first catch weight fight at 140 was against Ahmed. We talked a lot about that. And
Yeah.
obviously you just cut a great promo about how you feel happier. And that is really a big thing when when people first kind of go up in weight. We've seen some legendary weight bumps that have led to massive success. I think of Bobby Knuckles, the Robert Whitaker, who at one went from 170 to 185, and he wasn't a big 185er, but he could train harder. And he talked about feeling more energized. So for you, obviously, this is a future thing. We'll talk about it once you finish the fight against Tally. But this is a gradual at 140. This is a gradual step up to 145. Once you add mass, is that kind of the game plan going forward, to take catch weights at 40 and then kind of progress, obviously with your coaches, whatever Isaac Greeley says goes. But
Yeah.
is that the long-term plan?
Yeah, I would believe so. Because the less I have to cut, the bigger I can get throughout training when I'm not cutting weight. And then we'll eventually put on the mass and then do it to it, you know? And I just do whatever coach says. And we'll be in practice. You do whatever Isaac says. We'll be in practice. He'll say one more. You do about 20 more and you stop when he says stop, you know? You just do whatever coach says.
That's everybody that has good coaches, because it does matter. You don't want to be under a coach where that could be misused. But for Coach Isaac Greeley, who's such a legend, and he had a great shout out with the two guys, Hunter and Jim, talking about understanding as matchmaking, understanding the coaching, because Isaac, and we could say Kama as the head coach at the academy as well. Those are guys that really understand the developing process of fighters. And so for Jim Mooney and other matchmakers, they can trust the camp, they can trust the coach, because that goes a long way as far as the fighters go, which is incredible. I used to do that as a joke as a coach, where I'd say, give me one more, give me one more. And the goal is that you're not actually counting, right? Like you said, you just
Yeah.
go until you're finished, because
Yeah.
they used to do this thing. They did it when my uncle was in basic going into Vietnam, which was obviously not a highlight of his life, but they would do runs where they say, okay, we're going to run 4 miles, 5 miles, and push them. And then when they get there, okay, we got to keep running, and people would collapse, because the mental game is they were depending on that break, that release. And
Yeah.
obviously in either fighting, cage fighting or soldier fighting, either way, the mindset has to be that you can keep pushing through those
No
mental
matter
blocks.
what. Yeah.
Super cool. But you appear to have a great frame to go up, because you're got a good build, good tall frame. This is a little technical thing. I've been watching you, stalking you on Facebook, of course, and every once in a while you'll post videos of you. David Sachs, Coach David Sachs, will post videos of you working out in your snatch, in your deadlifting, and in your multifaceted lifts. You're always sock foot. Is that to strengthen the way your foot muscles fire? What's the logic behind that? I know some do, some don't. I'm just curious.
I like to train without shoes on, just because I fight without shoes on. So I'm not we're real careful about not dropping weights on my feet.
Sure.
But but yeah, I like to do it just because I'm training. I fight without feet. I fight without shoes on. So I want to get my my foot used to moving like that. You know what I mean?
Sure. I mean, that's kind of what I thought it was. There was a whole debate. I once being trained at a pretty high level for track and field coaching. There was a whole debate between barefoot running and not barefoot running, because there's advantages to teaching the foot to kind of protect itself, the ankles, and as far as some of the way the tendons work. And obviously, if you always train in a shoe, it kind of stops that. You fight barefoot, and when you're moving weight in training, you want to be doing it in the same environment that you're going to be moving weight in a fight, and that makes perfect sense.
Exactly.
I've also kind of seen fighters that just mentally get into those ankle sleeves, sort of like Muay Thai fighters wear them. And of course, that's good if you need them. But oftentimes, if they're wearing them just to wear them, it kind of teaches the ankle to need it. There's all types of logic behind that. So it's really cool. What element, what movement, what training technique have you really enjoyed learning? Maybe a more complex movement from Coach David Sachs, who's kind of a legendary strength and conditioning for any sport. He's been getting into bare knuckle boxing. I interviewed him, which was just incredible. But what has that development been? What has your favorite move or lift or exercise been to learn from Coach David Sachs?
We've been progressing through complex Olympic lifts. So the clean front squat to jerk is kind of my favorite right now.
Yeah.
My least favorite, we're starting to push press more weight, and it's hard. I'm not gonna lie. It's after I already hit pads, and then we go do Olympic lifts, and I'm it's towards the end of the workout, and I'm a little bit burnt out. But it's it's good. Don't get me wrong, I get the weight moving, but it's hard.
Well, I appreciate you, Justin, giving us a bonus share. I had asked about your favorite lift, and you explained the complex lift. But for Coach Sachs to know, you must really not like the push press, to throw it in there. But I think that's where trusting your development process, particularly from a high level coach like he is, to recognize that training something like that, when you are fatiguing your muscles, obviously you have to know when to do it, when not to do it. So the fact that you hate it, and this is a good thing, because it means that you're developing. If every training camp or every workout was easy, you're not developing. We've kind of seen that. Not to throw shade at Connor, but I will. The training videos of Connor when he was hungry, looked a lot different than Connor after he had made it. And that
Exactly.
it would look a lot different for me too. Don't get me wrong, but that's the thing. It's sort of the mindset that if your camp's the easiest, breeziest, it's probably not taking you to the next level. And something I can give you a compliment on. And I think all sort of beginning pros, we talked about how this is your 5th pro fight. So within that first 5 fights as a pro, this is probably a good thing to do, is to really be taking your skills up leaps and bounds. And that comes through training, that comes through, like you said, the mental of mentally understanding that you can bring it in a way that there were a lot more restrictions, even in advanced amateur. And it takes time for the brain to fire the elbows and the knees and the things that were not allowed in advanced amateur and to develop them into a pro set. That's why you see people like Kama Worthy, who was almost 20 some fights in, hitting his peak in the UFC late in his career because he was still developing and adding on skills. I really appreciate you coming on. You're going to be the co-main event for Brawl in the Berg 13, October 1st, easy to remember. October 1st, Monroeville Convention Center. Let's end it at this. What reason do you give for fans? You're a known fan favorite. So what reason do you give for fans to come out and scream, which I personally have heard when I'm on the broadcast, General, General, you got a great nickname. They love to shout it. So what's kind of your shout out to the fans that come and support you?
No matter what, my fight's going to be exciting regardless. It's going to be an exciting fight. I put my heart and soul into it every single time. Like, I'm willing to go in there and die. It doesn't matter, So that's my favorite part, is like walking out there and hearing everyone scream and it getting loud, and I know that they're there to watch me put on a show. So that's what I'm excited about, just show everyone what I got.
Indeed, you will. It's been an honor having you back on the show. Everybody get their tickets directly from the General Patton or the Mat Factory, any of the gyms represented or any of the fighters represented. If you do buy tickets online through 247fighting.com, that's great. Make sure you select the fighter. That'll really help them out. The General.
The General.
The General. And I always say, but in this case, I'll say select the General. But I mean it when I say, if you happen to be a fan that is just coming to watch 247 and you don't have a favorite fighter, just pick one, or the General.
Pick the General.
In this case. So we appreciate you coming on the show. Can't wait to see you in action. For everybody out there, put that on your calendar. Plan on being at Monroeville Convention Center for October 1st. It's going to be incredible. There's only been 2 fights announced so far, the main event and the co-main event. Thank you so much for coming on, one half of the co-main event. Take care. You've been listening to Luke from MMA Fancast with my guest for tonight, Justin, the General Patton. Thanks so much.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it.
Got it, pal. All right, bud.
Peace.
Bye.